I would love to start from the root of your journey, from your spiritual evolution.
Through my teacher, Raghavan Iyer, his eyes would go to me. I just felt this absolute, complete acceptance of exactly who I was, just pure self.
Understanding what is real and what is not real.
To see whether I can look out and look at somebody else and really see them, really see you, exactly for you. However you might change, whatever you might do, can I just see the real light of you?
He had made that wonderful journey to be at that level of awareness for everyone. That makes me even more curious what all sacrifices and journeys he may have done through his lifetime. How much important is to have an access of someone like that energy around you, an influence around you?
Somebody who we're going to revere as a teacher has to be someone of great magnanimity of spirit. It is such a sacrifice for a great being to come into this world after you've been a cosmic force essence. We were being invited to court our destiny. Is this my destiny? Is this what I'm really supposed to be doing with my life?
Namaste, ni hao, aloha. Welcome to the Illuminating the Way podcast, where we meet amazing, extraordinary people who have found a way to embody light with awareness and mindfulness, and are also sharing the light with the world and the people around them. From spiritual teachers to movement practitioners, from Qigong to yoga, from martial arts, from tea arts, and beyond. We share the wonderful stories of everyone that will help each of us embody light and become more aware. I'm Dishane Shah, and we are going to share the wonderful stories of people to help expand our consciousness mindfully that will spark inspiration, reflection, and transformation. Today I have a wonderful opportunity to sit with someone very special and dear to me, Renée Tillotson. Someone who has cultivated light so wonderfully, and we are going to have the opportunity to explore spirituality, mindful movement, and the art of self-coaching. Together, we'll uncover the light that she has cultivated, the lesson she carries, and how it is rippling out into the world. Renée is a wonderful visionary leader and director of Still and Moving Center here in Hawaii, a beloved mindful movement studio and a wellness hub. Renée is a wonderful, dynamic lover of movement, from gymnastics to Nia, and she brings joy and presence in everything she creates. She's also working on one of the wonderful book called The Art of Self-Coaching. She's one of the most spiritually aware people I know of. Renée is also writing the book on The Art of Self-Coaching, which is geared to help people move mindfully in their life. She's also deeply devoted to theosophical wisdom, a philosophy that is devoted to the path of unity, truth, and conscious living. Aloha, Renée. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Aloha, Dishane. It's really, really an honor and pleasure to be with you in your inaugural podcast. I feel so blessed and truly grateful to be here. Thank you.
I'm also very grateful. Couldn't have been better to be at the center and talking right from the center of our beings, right in front of Lord Shiva with us.
Yes.
I would actually love to start from the beginning of what does Lord Shiva represents to you? If you could share some thoughts and energy words of Lord Shiva with us.
Oh, yes. I go back quite a way in terms of understanding the ideas of creation, preservation, and destruction for the sake of recreation, regeneration of the universe. My understanding is that Shiva would represent that aspect of the universe, we need to make room for the new. We can't keep everything. Things need to have a cycle of being replaced so that the new can arise. Shiva Nataraja is Lord of the Dance in this place, which is our barefoot ballroom. It seems just a wonderful personage to preside over this ballroom space. We chose to place him here at Still and Moving Center because he is so emblematic of this idea of still and moving center. Our logo is a swish with a still dot in the middle of it. And it represents, in this place of mindful movement, the ability to hold a still, peaceful center in the midst of our movement. So that when we practice holding center while we might be in really big motion, in the case of dancing Nia, we have the practice of finding this peace within so that when we go out into the world, and now a lot of the turbulence is what's going on around us, and we know how to find our still center in the midst of motion. So this is what, to me, Shiva Nataraja represents, is you can see this motionless center. He's absolutely perfectly balanced. He could stay that way for eternity. And yet we have these flames surrounding us, and we can see that he is in the middle of a dance, and he's got that drum in one of his right hands that is like throbbing the rhythm of the universe. And so to me, he is just a really perfect representation of stillness in the midst of motion.
And I love that you have extended that flame and it's rippling out in so many layers of extension.
Yeah, it's echoing, echoing flames.
Yes. There's so many wonderful things to talk with you today. I would love to start from the root of your journey, from your spiritual evolution. When you look back at your life, what were some of the key learnings that you received from your journey that really stayed with you and influenced your entire life?
I was very fortunate to be born to parents who are very broad-minded. When I was about kindergarten age, my parents were helping to found and build a Unitarian fellowship. And I remember studying the different religions and traditions of the world at that early 4, 5, 6-year-old age, and studying the ancient Egyptians. One Sunday in the adults part of the church, they had a Buddhist monk who came and spoke. My parents didn't hesitate to take me when we traveled to see the different churches of Europe. I had friends who were Jewish. That breadth of exposure to the different world's traditions was a very formative ground that allowed me to have an openness. At the same time, I wasn't being taught any religion per se at all. I remember a time, maybe early teens, when I had the realization that everybody suffers. Sometimes I feel so much joy, and I want everybody to have a lot more of that. I didn't know how to bring that about, but I just thought that was worthwhile.
You mentioned that people suffer, and it is one of the key points of Buddhist philosophy. If you could also explain what leads to human suffering. And for you to be able to experience joy, I'm sure you're doing something different that allowed you to experience that joy. And if you could explain a bit on what that might be.
I was very inwardly turned for a lot of my childhood. I did a lot of reading. I was given a book of the world's classics. And so when I would run out of library books, I would just pull out Jane Eyre or whatever. But I really immersed myself in some of the literature of the world. And that gave me a good taste, but it wasn't enough. I love being with my family. I love being up in my trees, except when my Dad would prune them once a year, and then they would be so stark, and I couldn't be in my leafy bower, and I would cry because my beloved trees had their branches cut. I did at an early age realize that there was something important about having an inner life. I was somebody who could be very enthusiastic about a lot of things. Both my parents have great senses of humor. There's something about laughter that is really important to life, and it helps keep things lighter. If we're willing to laugh at our own expense, helps to take ourselves a lot less seriously. And this is a great relief to suffering. I actually believe we bring a lot of our suffering upon ourselves by thinking of ourselves as victims of whatever it is that seems to be happening to us. When we're able to laugh at ourselves, it does a lot to let go of that victimhood and see that maybe things aren't quite as bad as we thought they were. And there are a lot of people who are going through a lot worse things. I think that helps extend joy, knowing that the world is actually a wonderful place. And whatever little bump I'm going through, it's not that big of a deal. If you think about Anne Frank in that attic in Nazi Germany, and her still being able to find joy, meaning, and beauty in life, we've got it pretty good. That sense of perspective is part of what allows me, when I'm at my best, to be experiencing joy. The Dalai Lama gives us really a wonderful example himself. I have had the chance to meet the Dalai Lama, and it was a pretty amazing experience. He has experienced, through his compassion, so much suffering on behalf of his Tibetan people. And yet, no matter when I've heard him speak, he's always got this huge, deep belly laugh. He always is able to crack a joke and bring out a smile. And that is so important for uplifting others. We can't just be trudging through life down in the dumps. We've got to remember that there's so much promise in the world, and to see that in others, and to exemplify that we can still be caring beings, loving beings, and be joyful. There's so much promise in the human spirit and what we can accomplish in the face of tremendous odds.
It reminds me of one of the Buddhist quote saying that if one acts from an impure mind, suffering will follow. And if one acts from a pure mind, happiness will follow. And it almost sounds like there's a process of purification or a process of evolution, perhaps. Or perhaps it's also refining yourself to come closer to yourself in some ways.
I wasn't given religious training per se. I remember my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, coming close to 50 years, gave me something that was called The Religion of Solidarity. And it was a little essay written by Edward Bellamy as a young man of perhaps only 23 years old himself. He never even quite finished it, and yet he asked that it be read at his deathbed. He must have felt that he touched into something so important. And he talks about this, something like a second self that was always watching, and in the midst of deepest despair or the maddest gaiety, this second self was always watching. And as I was reading this, I went, I've had that experience. I have that experience all the time. There is something that is untouched by all the trammels of life. Something, like you say, pure and like light. And that made sense to me. I tend to think rather scientifically and mathematically, and you have a candle and there's a flame. Even when the flame goes out, that energy has not disappeared from the universe. We may not be able to see it, but it's still there, because the second law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be lost or created. It can only change form. So it seemed to me, what about that light in the eyes of a human being when they're alive? Okay, so the light goes out, that body's still there. It's very different, though, than having the living spirit presence self. Yeah. I'm not somebody who's big on belief. This is what you should believe. Doesn't cut it really with me. It has to make sense to me. The second law of thermodynamics makes sense to me. And so if it's true about physical energy, it must be true as well.
Or it has to be experienced, perhaps, experiential.
Yes, and also if it works on one plane of being, the physical plane, then this plane of being of whatever it is that's always watching, that also must never be able to disappear from the universe.
You bring a good question, that the difference of lower self versus higher self. From the higher self perspective, one also have to understand what is real and what is not real. How can one make that inner journey to reach towards that higher self? And from that higher perspective, how do you keep yourself intuitive enough to recognize that this is real versus not?
When you ask me about how I might have gotten an experience or an intuition of this higher self, one of the ways that I experienced it was through my teacher, Raghavan Iyer. At some point near the end of his life, he happened to be living next door to us, and I would go over and visit him frequently. And every time that I walked in the door, which was across the room from where he sat, he would sit cross-legged in a chair, just something like you're sitting right now, actually. And when I would walk into the room, his eyes would go to me. I just felt this absolute, complete acceptance of exactly who I was. Not as a this or a that or a mom or a student or anything. Just pure self or pure me or pure something, pure light. Just this complete embrace of who my whole being or what my whole being was. And never been seen in that way before. I believe he did that for everybody. I think he saw everybody in that way. When we say namaste, the light in me greets the light in you, it's probably that at a super deep level.
Yes.
And it's very inspiring from my point of view to see whether I can look out and look at somebody else and really see them, really see you, exactly for you. However you might change, whatever you might do, can I just see the real light of you? So I think that was part of a huge learning experience for me.
How wonderful that you got that experience right at the early age of your time. The unconditional love and the divine timing definitely shows we always have that energy within us. And one thing that stood out to me from Raghavan Iyer's perspective is he had made that wonderful journey to be at that level of awareness for everyone. That makes me even more curious what all sacrifices and journeys he may have done through his lifetime, perhaps.
Yeah.
And how much important is to have an access of someone like that, sort of an energy around you, an influence around you.
We wouldn't know the ABCs without somebody to teach us the ABCs. I think that's like everything in our lives. We dearly need teachers, and they deserve our utmost gratitude.
I and Jade, we are definitely grateful to have you here, sharing that expression, all the learnings that you have received from all the wonderful teachers around.
Anything I have to share is all from my teachers. That's all it ever is. I'm so glad that you brought that up about teachers, because maybe we take our teachers too much for granted. And to have a recognition that, gosh, we wouldn't be where we are today without all of the people who shared with us and cared for us and showed us the way as best they could, small and great, and to have actually beings of wisdom that we can access. We have unimaginable access to great teachers these days. You can learn from every tradition in the world now due to what there is available online and in books. Invisibly, teachers are around us all the time, and probably even visibly. This is one of the things that Raghavan would say, is that you never know if the man who's picking up your trash is a really great teacher in disguise that you might be able to learn from if you ever have a chance to get him to slow down his truck long enough to have a conversation. Or it could be the person who's checking out your groceries at the grocery store. You just never know who's around you. And it could be someone in your family that you've had what seems like a really difficult time with. They could be your most important teacher. Teachers are important.
We have so many wonderful teachers around the world. One key thing that really differentiates between a teacher and a master, from my perspective, is embodiment. What they are speaking, are they actually doing from an energy perspective? I feel it allows people to be able to trust more, to be able to walk that bridge across with them somehow.
Yeah. Are they walking their talk? Yes. I feel as if so many times people allow themselves to discard and discount someone else because we perceive that there's imperfection. And I think that we have to remember that when we're in the embodied world, there's so many things. Just the fact that we're born into a human body means that we're born with a certain genetic code. We're going to have certain psychological predispositions. We have personalities. Personalities are never comfortable. It's always like wearing a pair of shoes that don't quite fit. Personalities, they have their own little quirks.
Yeah.
And I think it's way too easy, like with heroes, to first you put them up on this great big pedestal, and then it turns out, oh, they smoke or something. They've got this vice that you think, oh, all right, never mind. And you just toss them off the pedestal. We have to have a lot more largeness of heart, vision, understanding. It is such a sacrifice for a great being to come into this world and to have had this like really cosmic perspective, and then it gets all squished down into being into one little human brain and living inside this human personality and this body after you've been a cosmic force essence. I don't know what it's like for them, but I can just imagine it's a sacrifice. And also, we don't understand why they might do things that on the outside don't seem like something we would have done, but we don't know at a really deep level what was really going on.
Yeah.
That someone really wise knew, oh, I had to take this step, and there are going to be some consequences that are very difficult. But it was the important step that needed to be taken for the world at this moment. Somebody who we're going to revere as a teacher has to be someone of great magnanimity of spirit, and that has to just be seeping out of them. And we also have to give that leeway. There are just some things we don't know, we don't understand. And yet, if what they're doing is pulling the best and the brightest out of you, and you can see that other people are gaining in similar ways, then I think you start to think, this is somebody I really could learn from. Somebody who's a real mentor of mine has a problem with drinking. But oh my goodness, have I learned a lot from that person.
Understanding what is real and what is not real at the same
There you
time.
go. Yeah.
And it is a very tough thing to put in practice, but it's if you are able to find mastery in that, you can learn a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So many different people.
So always, as long as we're looking for the best in everyone, I think we're on the right track. Then everyone, even people who are falling flat on their face and making mistakes, but maybe you'll see they're the ones who just keep standing up and trying again. Okay.
Definitely.
So the question of what's real and what isn't real.
And you can also explain it from your own journey of how you have found that.
Maybe a lot of us have this experience. Certainly I, who have experienced my 70th birthday recently, have rather frequently the experience of walking past a mirror and then going, oh, that's me. That's me. What's really me doesn't have an appearance. And it's so interesting. It's the same me that was looking in the mirror when I was getting dressed to get married. It's the same me that was on the balance beam doing gymnastics. It's the same me that I see a little picture of. I'm bundled up in my snowsuit and I'm making a snowman with pure delight. And all of these are things that I did with pure delight. I look so different in all those pictures. And when I looked in the mirror at all those times, the me that was looking into the mirror was more real, I would say, because I think that's the part of me that will never disappear.
The part of us which is never changing.
Yeah. It's evolving in a way. That's never going to disappear. And then what's going on the surface changes a lot.
That is amazing. It just makes you feel even more freer.
Yeah.
Knowing that what is real and what is not real. I have to contemplate on that even further. And I would also encourage every one of you to think about what is part of you which is never changing and how can you function from that state of being. I would love to also know one piece of gem of wisdom that you love to share with our audience.
I think what really impels me to share with others is the notion that we are always capable of self-direction. And I like to use Anne Frank as an example. Here she is. She's just a young teenager. And she chose how she was going to respond to that very frightening and claustrophobic situation that she was in. She did not succumb to despair. And I suspect that carried on with her throughout her experience in the concentration camps. There's a movie that I really love called Life is Beautiful. And it's a father and his little son. And they are put in a concentration camp. And the father wants to really shield his son from the horrors of what's happening. And so he makes the whole thing into a game. That we're all playing a game, and these guys are pretending to be the mean guys, and we're the ones who are playing this other part. And he just made the whole thing into a game, such that even when they came and took him, and he was being marched off, and he knew he was going to lose his life, he looks at his son, and he makes a funny face, and he does this funny marching step as he goes off.
Mm.
And he kept intact his own approach to his life, how he lived his life. He did not succumb with the fear and the absolute loss of himself into terror.
Mm.
He never lost
Mm.
himself. I know this is a movie, however, I believe that there are many people who have gone through situations such as concentration camps and kept that intact. For example, Viktor Frankl did that very much, and he was tending to all of the people around him, giving away whatever crust of bread he had because somebody else needed it more. So this idea that we never need to be a victim of any circumstance. We can always choose, at minimum, our response to it. And in most cases, we're able to choose much more than that, how we direct even what's going on in our lives. That's really a key nugget of what's important to me.
So wonderfully spoken. What I picked from that conversation, one was that you can easily convert fear to joy by just changing the way you respond to a situation. The second thing which you mentioned was how you were able to see through the movie, understand the light, like what am I learning from this? And you magically applied it to other areas of life where you can apply and share this light to others mindfully. And not everybody thinks about that. Many people would watch a movie just for the sake of just feeling the emotions. But at the same time, there's a higher self which is observing through even those emotions, even those movements.
Yeah.
And yet, somehow being able to extract that piece of information and apply it mindfully in a way that can make people move towards their higher self.
Good art does that for many people. This was a really highly acclaimed movie, and a lot of people got to experience that probably. And I think another aspect of what's real and how we realize it is through love. As we go through life and we experience things through the eyes of others, sometimes it's somebody who's very close to us, someone who's actually related to us, that first arouses in us this sense of empathy, and then this sense of, what can I do to relieve that suffering? You come to realize there's not a lot of difference between the two of us. So I'm looking through this mirror, or into this mirror from this observer standpoint, and I'm seeing a person that looks like this, that's 5 feet tall with blonde hair and blue eyes. And then there's another self looking through a mirror and seeing somebody closer to 6 feet tall and darker skin and dark eyes. But really, how different is that self that's looking through? And when you hurt, I hurt. And when I hurt, you hurt. And when I experience you in a state of joy, elation, my heart soars with yours. And I think that's common to the human experience. Good artists are able to tug on our heartstrings a bit and help us to realize our unity with one another. And then we have these experiences sometimes of feeling as if we're very alone, feeling as if the world just isn't going our way and nobody cares. And then out of the blue, somebody will extend a hand, will do a kind act, will recognize something about us that is wonderful that we didn't recognize in ourselves. And there's this affirmation of that love that we share amongst each other, ourselves and each other.
One of the most fun thing for me to know from this conversation is the ability of your discernment between what is right and wrong in some ways. And I appreciate that. And at the same time, spirituality is not just things which is internal. It also feels very embodied, real life, applying with people who is around you, with your community, with your family members, your loved ones, your own callings.
Yeah.
That leads us to the segment of the mindful movement, because one of the things that I'm very happy and curious to explore is how have you found this way of expressing your higher self into a form of a movement that is not only influencing you, but also all the people and community around you. And one thing definitely that amazes me is you are turning 70 this year, and yet you are dancing with joy like a 17-year young kid. And that is one of the truly amazing things that I love dancing with you, with Nia on. So tell us, what is this magic and what is Nia?
Okay, well, even though I was a bookworm, I also was a pretty high energy kid. I was at the YMCA going swimming with my family, and I saw people in the gym that were doing flips. Well, they were doing lots of things, but I was really captivated by them flipping in the air. I was, oh my gosh, they're flying. I want to do that. So my parents signed me up to take gymnastics lessons. I got onto the gymnastics team. And I actually ended up doing gymnastics from ages 11 through 22. I was a competitive gymnast in high school and in college. Then gymnastics is one of those sports that you don't just do very much. It's not like tennis. You just pick up your tennis and you go out on the tennis courts. After you've left a gymnastics team, there's not a lot of scope for doing it. And besides that, I got married, and then eventually we had kids, and I was working. One thing after another, and I went for about a quarter of a century without having a regular movement practice. Looking back at that, I can see I could have avoided what happened. And what did happen when I was 39 was that we had some business things that weren't going very well. My husband mentioned the word of possible bankruptcy, and that just, I got so worried. There were so many people depending on us, so many families that they had a person working in our business, and I got so worried and worked up, and not having a movement practice, I didn't have a way to let off steam. And having a good, strong movement practice is something that allows us to just get out a lot of stuff that it just gets stuck in all these different layers of ourselves, in our heads and our emotions. It gets into our bodies. I got myself so unhealthily worked up in this state of worry. It was like I was a human pressure cooker. Eventually, at a little bit later stage in my life, had our younger son say, "Mom, I think you should take an exercise class." I said, "Oh, that's such a great idea." So I went down that day and I signed up at the YMCA. I started that class, and at one point in time, a woman came in. She said, "Hi, my name's Carmen. I'm your teacher today. Take off your shoes. We're going to do Nia." And this was another turning point for me. I began to realize what a fantastic practice it was. I was dancing to music, but I also had a chance to do some martial arts blocks and kicks. There were times on the floor, and I could stretch out and roll around, and it was very expressive. I was getting a great workout. And that was my introduction to Nia. When at the end of one of her classes, a little over a year after I started doing Nia with her, she said, that was my last Nia class. I am retiring. I was like, ugh, like the rug getting pulled out from under you. It was that kind of really visceral feeling in my body. What? This was so important to me by this point in time. I was finally doing something that was giving me so much joy and movement. I loved my kids. I loved my husband. I loved our life. And I was pretty rigid and tight in doing everything. Finally, here was something where I could just let my hair down and whew, go for it and shout. And
What do you think you unlearned and relearned through that movement practice?
I learned how important having a regular exercise practice is for me. When she quit and I was digesting this fact that we weren't going to have, she was teaching 5 or 6 Nia classes around the city a week, and I was going to all of them. And all of a sudden that was disappearing. It was a very big clarion call to me. At some point, I just had this realization, I was born to dance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe everybody is, I don't know. But I know I was born to dance. I've got to do this. Mm-hmm. If that means there's nobody else around that I can find to teach Nia, so I have to become a Nia teacher, maybe I better go get trained. I guess it was just realizing that what I had done as a youngster, always having something I was doing, swimming or horseback riding or whatever. I was always doing something. And then gymnastics, I couldn't leave that again. I was going to need to keep, to the extent possible, a movement practice going. And I have.
It wonderfully shows me that you took responsibility of your journey for yourself, and you never quit through that. Instead, you evolved through that moment. I'm also curious, who shaped you as a movement teacher specifically, and how did that evolve as an expression for others around you?
I was living in Santa Barbara, California at the time. I did become a licensed Nia teacher, and I found that there was another Nia teacher, much more advanced than I was, in town that I could take lessons from. His name's Ken Gilbert, and one of the things that I learned from him was this idea of keeping what I would call, from a theosophical perspective, I would call continuity of consciousness. He was really good at setting an intention at the beginning of every one of our classes and then just staying at it through the whole lesson. It could be, let's say, today I'm going to move from my heart. And then no matter whether we're on the floor or we're standing up or we're skipping or we're punching or whatever, there's some aspect of moving from my heart, and maybe not just the front of my heart. What about the back of my heart? Oh, what about the sides of my heart? And keeping that in mind through physical practice was a really great way of doing mindful movement. I was staying completely engaged by the way he taught that class. And so I aspired to teach in that way as well, to make sure that we're not just moving the body, but we've got this connection with our minds.
If you would have to describe that in a word or a sentence, what awakened in you specifically?
I was having an experience of moving meditation, that I was fully, completely present in the moment. And that has continued and increased as I've become a teacher myself. The experience is one where all of the stuff of my life is not there. It's just not even present. I'm just fully there in the class. I'm very present in my body. I'm aware of my emotions that are running through me. I remember a Father's Day playlist that I had, and I was thinking of my dad and how I wasn't going to have him forever, and I just turned into this little weepy puddle. And then I remembered how great it is that I still do have him. I did it at that point in time. So then I was elated. My mind is very, very clear because I'm focused. And yet, this focus on what the intention of the practice is for that day, I'm still, as a more advanced practitioner, able to stay in my body, stay in my emotional nature, notice what's going on to my thoughts. Now I notice when new people are coming into the room, or somebody's having a little trouble with a step. Maybe I need to make a modification to make this step a little more accessible to someone. Is that explaining?
Absolutely. And one thing that excited me to know is how you had a moment of connecting to your higher self. What I felt through this conversation was, in movement practice, you were able to find that connection as a bridge to connect to your higher self.
Yes.
And it became a practice where you could observe from that higher stance. And you also found a way to share it with others around. And was that a natural impulse to share around? And how did you end up deciding to do it with everyone?
When we lost our NIA teacher, I wasn't the only one taking class. There were a number of us taking class, and I thought, oh, this would be such a shame if everybody lost the opportunity to do NIA. I did try to find somebody else who could teach, and I couldn't find anyone else that was available. So that's when I decided I might as well get trained. This is just too special. This is too good to disappear from where I am. So I want to share it. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to speak to cue and also be dancing. And it turned out eventually I could. So then that made it easier to share. And I don't necessarily do NIA the way that everybody else does it. For me, there's an American tradition of barn raising. And it was when people live far away from each other, and if a barn needed to be built, you needed to have many hands. So they would put out the word and say, this is the day when we're going to build our barn. And then you'd have people come from far and wide and help to construct this barn. Sometimes it could go up in a day. There were enough people there. And the women would cook all this food, and the men would go and help build this barn. And then they would have a dance, a barn raising dance to celebrate this barn. People would pull out their fiddles, and probably they had those plunk plunks, the wash basin with the stick and the string, whatever they had. And they would dance. That's the way I like a NIA class to be, is everybody is dancing together. I do, for example, a lot more dances in the round than you might in a typical NIA class. In a typical NIA class, there is some sounding. In my class, there's a lot of sounding. And I've learned, maybe it's from the gospel tradition, to like call and response. And I feel as if that's another way of just opening ourselves up to joy, to just be able to say yes at the top of your lungs. When do we get to do that normally? But in NIA class you can.
Wonderful. And that is so wonderful that the practice itself is allowing you to convert your lower emotions to higher emotions. And you're doing it intentionally by setting those intentions. And helping people go through that movement practice.
Actually, it's part of the NIA training as you get into the higher levels, is we, just the same way that you might go into a clothing store and try on different outfits. And in one of the higher trainings, maybe it was brown belt, we have belts in NIA like you have in the martial arts. We try on different emotions. Maybe it even starts at the white belt level. I can't quite remember. But put on a piece of music and say, okay, let's dance happy. And then you put on another piece of music and let's dance suspicious. And then you get used to trying all these different emotions on and taking them off and learning that, oh, I really don't have to be as caught in this emotion as I have let myself be. It's just another piece of clothes. Just take that one off. Let's try on another one. So that's been another really wonderful aspect of the NIA training, and creating safe space for people to actually experience their emotions is very important. So sometimes I will deliberately put together a playlist that will allow one to lament and allow one to exult and allow one to just go silly.
It almost sounds like you are self-coaching the person through that movement practice. And that kind of also brings us to the segment of that self-coaching. And before we go into the art of self-coaching, I would love to know, what is that self in the part of us that we are coaching?
Yeah.
How did that came into your consciousness? Was it something that you learned as part of the NIA training, or was it an awareness that came into yourself? Like, oh yes, this is happening, and I can also share this in mindful way.
Mm-hmm. It was suggested in a way. Nia talks about the witness who's always completely impartial. So just the way that, let's say, a ballet teacher would look at a group of students and saying, you need to lift that leg a little higher. Oh, you need to turn out your knee, your ankle a little bit more here. Just very impartially, not judgmentally, that there's that aspect of yourself that could make those little kind of coaching adjustments in a non-judgmental way, just making suggestions. So that was seeded in me quite a long time ago from Nia.
One thing that I'm really amazed to see is that you're able to pay attention to all those subtle movements and at the same time experience the emotion in your body and find a way to express it. And what I want to know from the perspective of the self-coaching is, how do you stay grounded and how do you apply that art while in motion?
Remember that I had that experience of reading that article by Edward Bellamy of having the feeling of a second self always watching. If you've ever, in my personal experience, having watched the Merry Monarch Festival on television, which is the premier hula festival every year, they've got a camera above this huge stage in an enormous auditorium. From the Merry Monarch camera, you can look down and see 20, 30 people, and you're watching all the movement patterns that they're creating with one another through their choreography. Sometimes it's interesting to imagine having a camera that's just looking at myself and noticing, oh, I see that your arm is drifting over here. What about if you just kept it here? Knowing that this is a much more vulnerable position, it's not very healthy for the shoulder. And in the martial arts, you never allow yourself to get out there because you get thrown over. What about finding it there? There's no judgment involved in that kind of self-coaching. It's just making a suggestion as if you were an external coach. In order to do this well, it does require paying a lot of attention to body sensation, becoming more and more aware of where your body is in space, which is called proprioception. This is something that one develops over time through movement. For example, learning flips in gymnastics, I had to know where I was in space to be able to land on my feet, right? The cat knows how to land on their feet. That's very trial and error sometimes. So it is in part a learned skill for a very advanced movement like that. Yet we can all become much more aware. For example, there's just something in the very simple called the heel lead. When you're walking, to lead with your heel, which is the very natural way to walk. And sometimes we just plop our feet down like this. Whereas how much more elegant would it be if we could walk like this, just very graceful. And to do that, I have to really pay attention to that heel, that little triangle at the back edge of my foot. And is that what's touching first? Okay, and now as I roll my foot, am I then touching the ball of my foot? Am I coming off of the tips of my toes as I roll through? So that's very much of a sensory experience. I also can look in the mirror. If I'm facing the mirror and I'm doing a heel lead, I'm going to see the sole of my foot because the toes of my feet are up and the heel is down. If I've got the advantage of a mirror and I look sideways, I can see that foot rolling. There are ways of cultivating awareness of where our bodies are in space. If we're in a movement practice where we have a coach and they're being our external eyes for us, oh, great, bring it on. I always would love the coaches that were toughest on me in gymnastics because I felt as if I could learn the most from them. They weren't shy in telling me, you've got to pull it in here. Let those ribs, don't let them stick out. Pull those ribs in, hollow chest. So that's a little bit of the self-coaching, and that's on the physical plane. Then there's the self-coaching on the emotional plane too. So just as I'm watching my body and giving suggestions to the body, you've been flattering and saying about I'm always joyful. I'm sorry, but that's not always the case. There are some times when I go into some different emotions and I allow myself to really feel those. I don't want to pretend that they're not there. Acknowledge that they're there. Feel them to the extent I need to feel them. If they are informing some action that I need to do, I'll take that action and then let it go. Just coach myself. Let's try on another emotion now. I think we've gone to that one's extent as much as we need to. Let's move on.
It is one of the most important learnings of movement. Many times the society is trained to suppress your emotions and becoming aware about it that you're not that emotion. If you can allow yourself to see through and find a way to transform it mindfully, I feel movement is one of the ways you can experience that. I'm just so happy that we have this space where it is so diverse that different people can experience their own journeys through that same single motion. It's been experienced in so many different ways.
Even
in general,
just,
for all the movements that we do mindfully. I think in a community, sometimes what I appreciate is also learning from the other person who might be moving in some other ways. And like, oh, wow. It's just so much joy. And I feel your book on the art of self-coaching is like a life culmination of all the wonderful learnings you have done so far. From that higher perspective of observing yourself, from learning to find a way to have movement as a bridge to express your higher self. And allowing all the people around you to take those learnings into their daily life. Would you say is the art of self-coaching is also an intention of extension of that, where you want people to take those learnings from your mindful movement and apply them into your daily lives?
Yes, the book is Mindful Movement, The Art of Self-Coaching. I hope that people will find a way to stay in motion throughout their lifetimes and to do it in a mindful way that is going to keep them present. It should be something that gives you joy. Oh, I remember meeting a woman on the elevator at the Honolulu Club, which used to exist in town. And she's going, yeah, I got to go work out. And I was like, I get to go do Nia. Why are you going to go have to work out? Do something you love doing. And it will be such a different experience. And you can go and work out, and that can be wonderful too. So yes, I hope that whatever movement practice people are able to do, they do it with joy, they do it with nonviolence, nonviolence to anyone else, and nonviolence to your own body. Sometimes when we get some strange notion that we need to self-punish, but these are really precious instruments of ours, and they're the ones that we have for this lifetime. Let's keep them in really, really, really good, healthy condition. And when we're doing it, let's do it with full presence. Just really be in this moment now. Be mindful. Be here now. Interestingly, being here now also allows this observer self to become more accessible to us. And the coaching that we can get becomes more accessible to us when we're very present in the moment. We're very here, right here, right here. Everything here now.
It almost reminds me body senses, mind thinks, emotion feels, and the self observes. To be able to see those aspects.
You must have gone to the Academy of Mindful Movement.
Yes. Thanks to you. It is a wonderful journey to experience yourself mindfully and observe and be here and now present. And take those learnings in your daily lives and transform those every single aspects of your life where you might not be fully present.
Right, right. It's like what we were saying, this idea of the swish and the dot, the still and moving center. Get that body in motion and get to the point that you know that's still center. Then your body might not be in as much motion. You walk out. Somebody picks you up. All of a sudden, you're faced with this whole emotional hubbub of somebody's life. But you've had that experience of holding that peaceful, still center. You were in motion. So if somebody else is in some kind of motion, whether it's verbal or very emotional or very mental, whatever it is, you're able to keep that presence.
That almost takes me to the point that I would assume that you would have a daily practice and rituals for yourself to keep that center intact somehow. If you have certain practices, or how does Renee in her life keeps that center always intact? Apart from doing Nia, obviously.
Yeah, that's a great question. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I'm always learning in new ways. My practice of Theosophy was something that I found in college, and I loved that it embraced every tradition, every religion. It embraced science. It was the whole package, and it was all about human solidarity, all about love, and how we bring that into the world. So I read theosophical literature. I have conversations that other people lead that I engage in. Every year, I put together an almanac. The Still and Moving Center almanac comes out with a theme for the whole year. Our theme for this year, for example, is evolving with the cosmos. Kind of a big theme. And there's a theme for each week. And this week, we have the week of the Lunar New Year of the Fire Horse. The theme for this week is fire. And then there are quotes on that topic for every day of the week. I use that as my continuity of consciousness. Every day I'll read the quotes for the almanac. I'll meditate on that, and how does that affect my life? We have conversations at Still and Moving Center. We have Gems from the Wisdom Traditions conversation on Saturdays. And then we have satsang, a conversation about not just the topic itself, but really how do we apply it in daily life. Being in conversation with others about high themes, not just the trials and tribulations and the little things of daily life, but also let's get to the meaning of why these things might be happening and what we're learning from them. You're asking me all these things about what I'm learning from my life. Thank you. And I do have a morning practice. I have a practice of doing 10 sun salutations in the morning, which I always hope to do right around dawn. I review my day at the end. There's something called the Pythagorean review that Pythagoras advised us to really look through our day and where did I do well? What could I have done better? And what did I learn from today? And our almanac has a place that we can put down what our aha for the day was. What did I learn from what I went through yesterday, for example? And what's my gratitude? What am I really grateful for? Those might be some of the rituals that I go through to keep me on track.
There's a lot of conscious awareness that you have put into your daily life. And I'm sure you may have had your own big aha moments or a big journey that you may have taken in order to evolve through your life. I'm curious if you had one of those moments from these daily practices that you built upon and that led you to do something different.
One of the things that I learned from Nia is very consonant with spiritual practice, but I wasn't deriving it from my quote-unquote spiritual practice. I had to go through Nia for me to get it. And that was this willingness to go with the irrational. As I told you, I'm very scientific, I'm very mathematical, and I'm very directed. One of the two co-founders of NIA, I've learned so much from both of them. Debbie Rosas, I've learned huge amounts from. I'm going to mention this one from Carlos Rosas, is he would take himself on spirit walks, he called them. And he would just set off walking and see what happened. And he did this once in the middle of a city in Germany where they were about to give a NIA training, and he had never been to that city before. He walked all over the city the night before they were going to give their training without a map. And he, at one point, went down the street and he passed 3 shops. Let's say it was a baker shop, a hat shop, and a shoe shop. And then he got to a door that you had to go down the steps, and there was a green door. And then he went, oh, okay, I'm going to go back now. And so he found his way back through the city, back to the hotel. And the next day, the woman who was their host, who set up this NIA training for them, took them to the studio where they were going to give the training. And they drove from the hotel. Eventually, they went down the street, and there was the baker and the hat shop and the shoe shop, and there was a set of steps going down to the green door, and that's where the training was taking place. And there's no kind of scientific or logical explanation as to how that serendipity might have happened. And he would tell us stories after stories about just going with, he called it spirit. He told about a time when he was going down 4 long flights of stairs from the NIA headquarters down to the ground floor. And he would often do the stairs rather than take the elevator. And he'd been having a bum knee. He's going down these stairs, and all of a sudden he has the impulse, he feels like he's being told, jump. And he's 4 feet 4 steps away from the ground. So he's quite high, really. And so he does. He just jumps off and lands. And something went back into place. His knee was fine. There's nothing rational about that. And I think there's something in me now that if I have this inner impulse that tells me, Renee, do this. And there's nothing like wrong with it. I might not know why it is, but if something's really telling me that this is something I should do, I'm going to listen to that. And it's taken me to do things I wouldn't have thought I could do, places I wouldn't have gone. It's made me so much braver and in the sense of more fearless. I'm not going to necessarily know everything. I'm not going to be able to figure everything out. There are so many, I feel like, beneficent forces at work in the universe. And that if I'm being called and I can respond, let's respond. Because something very good might happen that I can't predict. But I want to know everything. I can't know everything, Renee. Come on, go with it.
I hope all of you are taking notes. These are some important reflections and learnings. One of the things that really stood out to me was you have to consciously train your mind, consciously train your body, and also build those amazing layer of virtues, the higher emotions or the higher self, finding ways to connect with it, and at the same time, willingness to walk that path, whatever you are evolving into, perhaps.
That's how I came to create Still and Moving Center. It was just, I had never, I was going, Renee, you seem like somebody who would have an ambition, but you've never had an ambition. You became a teacher because you didn't know what else you should do, and your family has been teachers. Okay, so be a teacher. And then after you'd been teaching, now we have 3 little kids, and none of them are in school yet, and it's hard to get enough babysitting and pay for that. And your husband says, oh, why don't you come join my landscaping company, and we'll probably make more money if you're helping me, and you can stay home with the kids and answer the phone. Okay, I'll do that. All right. So there was no ambition. But all of a sudden, I just knew when I was offered to become a NIA teacher trainer by Debbie Rosas, and I started thinking, oh my gosh, wow, that would really be a big deal. Well, I wonder what else I could do, because I don't really feel like traveling all over the world. I just really am happy right here in Hawaii where I am. Oh, maybe I'll open a movement studio. Oh, yeah, I'm going to open a movement studio. And all of a sudden, like, what are you doing opening a movement studio? You don't know anything about it. Nope. I'm going to open a movement studio.
I am curious though, was there an impulse, an influence, or how did they even came into your consciousness?
At some point, I think earlier that year, Carlos Rosas had asked us, what are you going to do with NIA? What are you going to do with it yourself? I think maybe that was kind of brewing. And then when I started thinking of revolutionizing my life to be going all over the world, giving these NIA teacher trainings, I just went, wait a minute, that would really change my life, but there must be a lot of other ways if I'm going to change my life, I bet there are a lot of other things I could do too. And that's what came through is, I've got to open a studio and let the people of the world come here. And it can't just be NIA. What do I love about NIA that would apply to an overarching principle for other things to come under this roof. Oh, I love that it's a moving meditation. So what else could be a moving meditation? Oh, how about Tai Chi? Oh, how about yoga? Oh, how about Qigong? Oh, okay, so we're going to have a mindful movement studio.
And there is no right or wrong answer either from both the paths considered. But from your self perspective,
Yeah.
I almost felt like you had a moment, a piece of energy that was discomforting to you, perhaps. And you somehow flipped that into a way of, from the aspect of, I guess, desire to an aspiration, perhaps, to a higher emotion. And you found a way to see the center. And the reason I'm saying this is because for our viewers, many times every one of us will have different journeys in some ways or the other. And it's important to bring that awareness from that inside out, becoming aware about what is the self and what are perhaps my authentic, genuine values that I want to stem into and go beyond.
We were being asked, those of us who were being invited, it was a whole next generation of NIA trainers. We were being invited to court our destiny and to ask ourselves, is this my destiny? Is this what I'm really supposed to be doing with my life? And you can tell how important NIA is to me. And there are some aspects of NIA that I'm not so terribly comfortable with that I felt like I could teach it to everybody the way that it's done by NIA headquarters. So that was a conflict within me. I just I hadn't ever aspired to do that, and I felt a conflict. And that's why I felt so grateful to and honored to be asked, that I guess I took that inner conflict and went, there must be something I'm supposed to do. I'm getting out of this. So if I'm just really expanding my imagination of how my life could radically change, because I was the president contract administrator for our whole construction company at the time. And now I was being asked to spend at least 20 hours a week in training to become a NIA teacher trainer and start traveling all over the world, when I finally felt like, oh, we've landed here in Hawaii and we have a house and but I'm being called to like really consider a huge radical change. And I wasn't very comfortable with it. As soon as I got it, I go, oh, I'm so honored. Yeah, no. And I had a friend who said, no, Renee, this is a really big deal. You can't just say no. You've got to really think about this. So I spent about the next 3 months courting my destiny. Is it my destiny to become a NIA teacher trainer? No, but... And then when I was supposed to write the letter, it was at the end of the 3-day weekend, we were supposed to write a letter and answer whether it was or was not our destiny to become a NIA teacher trainer. Mine was, no, I will remain a NIA teacher, and I'm going to open my own movement studio.
That is so amazing. Yes.
Well, my husband thought it was too. I got home and said, Cliff, I've got to open a movement studio. He's going, what do you mean you have to? I just have to. I just have to do it. He said, but how can you say this is like a have to thing, like it's your duty? I don't know, but it is. Just like earlier, I knew I had been born to dance. At that point in time, I just knew, I just didn't know how or why, really, but I had to open a movement studio. Did that answer
Renee,
your
you have
question?
spoken so beautifully about awareness and all the wonderful decisions you have taken through your journey. And there's so much things we have talked about Nia specifically, and I'm so curious, and I was hoping if you would experience as a short embodied Nia experience, so that all our viewers can also get a taste of what it feels to dance like in Nia. How does it feel to feel joy in your body?
Okay, yes, I would love to. And I hope that all of the viewers watching this will do it with us.
Exactly. Yes, that's the deal, everybody, okay?
Yeah, we say that Nia is like chocolate. You can't possibly know what it tastes like without putting it in your mouth and experiencing it. Nia's like that too. You're going to have to do it with us. All of you, the viewers, I hope that you'll take off your shoes and do Nia with us.
Let's do it, folks. Let's do Nia. I'm so excited.
1, 2, 3.
Here we are. Want to do Nia?
I am excited. Let's do this.
Okay. Hey, come on over, folks. Let's do Nia. Those of you who are at home, please do it with us. Make sure that your body feels so good. Really listening to the body. And today, let's use as our body anchor our spine. Just 1 foot forward, doesn't matter which one. We're going to start leaning the spine. Finding the music in our bodies. Other side. A little louder. Other side. And other side. You can do it. Other side. Other side. One foot stays in front, goes out, back, and out. Good. Other side, and other foot comes back, on up, back, on up. Other side, and with that guitar. Real near your body's way. Other side, and find your elbow. Let's come in. Let's roll it. Other side. Can you roll the other way? Oh! 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 Other side. corner.
Your eyes so blue under those brown
Big circle. Out to the front corner.
Soon you're on your way.
Real knee. Your body's way. Out to the front corner.
The world is yours. Strike them with your crown.
Let's dance together.
Go all out. Be good.
Two hands.
Be fine.
Walk through. Be fine.
Live your life. Dream big. Don't forget
Remember,
to be
be
kind.
kind. Walk through.
Live it
To the back.
Rocks are meant to be picked
And
up
big circle.
and thrown.
Let's move further back.
New ideas can be pleasantly
Big circle.
overgrown.
Back we go.
You know where to go if you follow that heart.
Following that part, when you reel me up.
One step at a time.
my goodness, what just happened?
Thanks so much for moving with me.
Nia always brings so much joy, so much of light to us. And oh my goodness, that was so special. Not only to dance, experience myself, but also to dance with the community.
Yes.
And
That's always the
energetically, it
best.
was just different. And I hope all of you experienced and got a taste of what it feels like to do Nia. And as we come to the close, if there was one gem of wisdom that you would love to speak to everyone's heart today, what would it be for everyone?
You are never, ever a victim. You can always self-direct. Even if it's just your response to what you're going through in life, you can choose that. So I have all that faith and trust in each of you that you can do that. That's part of what it means to be human.
Wonderful, Renee. Wow, that was such a amazing conversations and moving mindfully with Renée Tillotson. One of the key moments for me during the conversation that I learned is how effectively she is able to apply her self-directedness, not only for herself, but also for everyone around her. And she has evolved and transformed herself mindfully over the journey of life. And if you were inspired through all the wonderful conversations, I would encourage you to move mindfully and also reflect, what does it mean to be self-directive in your own life? And choose a movement that will allow you to harmonize your mind, body, and spirit. And at the same time, if you're in Hawaii, make sure to visit Still and Moving Center and experience Nia alongside Renee and experience the energy firsthand.
Or Qigong.
Or
with
Qigong.
Shen and Jade.
And stay tuned for our next episode with another wonderful embodied wisdom. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review and share what inspired you from this conversation. Till then, stay mindful, live your inspired life, and let's illuminate the way together.